You open your fridge. You see a block of cheese. You don't think twice. You slice it, melt it, eat it. It's so normal you never question it. But 10,000 years ago, this food did not exist. It could not exist. The ingredients were there. The animals were there. But the idea was impossible. Because 10,000 years ago, cheese was disgusting. It was rotten milk. It was dangerous. It was waste. And then something changed. Someone somewhere made a mistake that would reshape human history. This is the story of that mistake. And why you're still living inside it. Everyone knows cheese comes from milk. Everyone knows humans have always kept animals. So it seems obvious that ancient people would figure out cheese. But here's what everyone misses. Ancient humans could not digest milk. Not properly. Not as adults. Almost every human on Earth 10,000 years ago was lactose intolerant. Their bodies stopped producing the enzyme lactase after childhood. Fresh milk was not food. It was poison. Bloating, cramps, diarrhea, dehydration. In a world without clean water or medicine, drinking milk could kill you. So the obvious question becomes terrifying. Why would anyone store milk? Why would anyone experiment with something their body rejected? The answer is not obvious. The answer is not simple. The answer changes how you see yourself. In 1981, archaeologist Peter Bogucki was digging in Poland. He found something strange. 7,500 years old. Clay pots with tiny holes punched through the bottom. Hundreds of holes. Too small for liquid. Too precise for decoration. Other archaeologists had found similar pots before. They assumed they were for straining grain. Or maybe ritual objects. Bogucki disagreed. He had a wild idea. These were cheese strainers. Ancient cheese-making equipment. But he had no proof. Just a hunch. For 30 years, he waited for technology to catch up. In 2012, he finally got his answer. In 2012, a team led by Dr. Richard Evershed at the University of Bristol published a study in Nature. They developed a new technique. They could identify specific milk fats trapped in ancient pottery. Not just guess. No, they tested Bogucki's pots. The results were shocking. The holes were exactly the right size for separating curds from whey. The chemical signature was unmistakable. These 7,500-year-old pots had held cheese. Not just once. Repeatedly. 4 generations. But the strangest part was still hidden. These ancient cheese makers were not lactose tolerant. They could not digest fresh milk. Yet they made cheese anyway. This was only half the story. Dr. Evershed's team kept digging. Literally. They found cheese residue on pottery across Europe. Poland. Turkey. The Mediterranean. The dates kept pushing back. 8,000 years. 8,500 years. Then, in 2018, a breakthrough in the Kujawia region of Poland. Pots with cheese residue, dating to 7,400 years ago. But these were different. These were huge. Industrial scale. Someone was producing cheese for hundreds of people. Not just family. Community. Trade. This was not survival food. This was economy. This was power. But the most surprising discovery came later. In 2021, geneticists at the University of Pennsylvania reconstructed ancient DNA from skeletons found near those cheese pots. They were looking for the lactase persistence gene, the mutation that lets adults digest milk. It was not there. 0% of these people could drink fresh milk. Yet they dominated cheese production for thousands of years. They built settlements. They expanded territory. They thrived on a food they could not fully digest. How? The answer was in the cheese itself. The fermentation process breaks down lactose. Aged cheese is almost lactose-free. These ancient people had accidentally discovered biotechnology. They had found a way to turn poison into protein, without knowing why it worked, without understanding bacteria, enzymes, or digestion. They just knew. The aged stuff didn't make you sick. The fresh stuff did. So they kept aging it, generation after generation. 10,000 years of accidental science. But this was only half the story. The real mystery is not how they made cheese. It's why they kept going. Think about what cheese requires. You need animals. You need to milk them regularly. You need containers. You need time. You need space. You need to defend your herd from predators and thieves. Cheese is not efficient. Cheese is commitment. Hunter-gatherers don't make cheese. Nomads don't make cheese. Cheese requires staying put. Cheese requires property. Cheese requires civilization. So the question becomes not how. The question becomes who. Who was desperate enough to try this? Who was hungry enough to eat rotten milk? The answer is almost nobody talks about this part. 10,000 years ago, the climate changed. The last ice age was ending. Forests grew where grasslands had been. The giant animals died out. Mammoths, aurochs, wild horses. The hunting that had sustained humans for 2 million years became impossible. People faced starvation. They faced extinction. They did something unprecedented. They grabbed the animals that remained. Goats, sheep, cattle. They didn't hunt them. They followed them. They stole their babies. They raised them. They trapped themselves. This was the Neolithic Revolution, the worst trade in human history. More work, more disease, more violence, shorter lives, but also more food, more children, more survival. The people who stayed hunters died out. The people who became farmers took over the world. And cheese was their secret weapon. Fresh milk spoils in hours. In warm climates, it spoils in minutes. But cheese lasts. Cheese travels. Cheese trades. A farmer with cheese could survive a drought. A herder with cheese could cross a desert. Cheese turned perishable wealth into permanent wealth. It turned animals into banks. It turned milk into money. But this explanation is still too simple. Still too clean. The real story is messier. The real story is about desperation. About eating something disgusting because everything else is gone. About making the same mistake so many times that it becomes tradition. About children growing up thinking rotten milk is normal. About 10,000 years of inherited trauma wrapped in protein and fat. You thought the story was about invention. But the real story is about adaptation. Not intelligent design. Blind evolution. The lactase persistence gene did not appear because people wanted to drink milk. It appeared because people were already drinking milk. The gene spread because milk drinkers had more surviving children. Not because they were smarter. Not because they were better. Because they were luckier. Because their mutations matched their behavior. This is the deepest truth about human evolution. We are not the product of planning. We are the product of accidents that worked. Cheese is the perfect symbol. 10,000 years of accidental fermentation. 10,000 years of accidental evolution. 10,000 years of survival through disgust. Today, you carry this history in your body. If you can digest milk as an adult, you have the lactase persistence gene. This mutation appeared independently in at least 5 different populations. Europe, East Africa, the Middle East, India, Mongolia. Each time it spread rapidly, faster than almost any other human gene. Because cheese and milk meant survival. Because the people who could digest fresh milk had advantages. But here's what nobody tells you. The gene spread fastest in places where cheese was already ancient. The mutation didn't replace cheese. It supplemented it. Even lactose-tolerant people kept eating fermented dairy. Because fermentation does more than remove lactose. It creates new flavors, new textures, new possibilities. Cheese became culture. Literally. The bacteria in cheese became part of human culture. Part of human identity. This changes how we see ourselves. You are not a modern person who happens to like cheese. You are a product of cheese. Your ancestors survived because of cheese. Your civilization exists because of cheese. The protein that built your brain came from this ancient accident. The calcium in your bones. The fat that kept you warm through ice ages. All of it traces back to someone, somewhere, eating something they should have thrown away. The disgust you feel about spoiled food is ancient wisdom. But wisdom can be wrong. Sometimes the disgusting thing is the saving thing. Sometimes the rotten thing is the revolutionary thing. This is the deepest lesson of cheese. Not about food. About risk. About trying the wrong thing. About surviving through mistakes. You open your fridge. You see cheese. Now you know. That white block is 10,000 years old. That smell is the smell of civilization. That taste is the taste of desperation that worked. Someone's ancestor, hungry enough to try anything, ate rotten milk and lived. Someone's grandmother, generation after generation, kept the secret of fermentation alive. Someone's culture somewhere turned survival into art, into religion, into identity. The holes in ancient Polish pottery are still working, still separating curds from whey, still turning poison into food, still turning accidents into inheritance. You are the inheritor, not because you chose this, because you were chosen by it. 10,000 years of survival compressed into every bite. Maybe the problem was never weakness. Maybe it was something much older inside us. Something that knows. The rotten thing might be the saving thing. The disgusting thing might be the future. The mistake might be everything.